interviewed you at Zanzibar on the waterfront, and I referred to your land as the new South Africa. You told me it would be better I spoke of a free South Africa. Looking at contemporary South Africa as a backdrop to the recent miners' crisis, what message do you believe will be conveyed from you to audiences as you perform songs of migration around the world?
Well, when it comes to mining, I think in 1974 already, we did Stimela, which is the coal train, and it talks about the plight of the miners.
We'd like to dedicate this song to all those people around the world who work in the mines, where they're digging and drilling for billions and billions of dollars worth of riches that never ever get to revolve anywhere around their own dinner tables. For all those peoples, wherever they may be, may their souls rest in peace. Amen. There's a train that comes from Namibia and Malawi. There's a train that comes from Zambia and Zimbabwe. There's a train that comes from Angola and Mozambique.
But I don't think the mining industry is ever going to change, because they're about profit. You know what I mean? All over the world, the mining industry is about profit. Farm workers and miners are treated the worst all over the world. And it's never going to change, And it's not common to South Africa. In other countries, they don't even pay attention to it. I mean, like if you look at the amount of miners that die in a year in China, in caved-in mines, and we don't hear about the mines in other parts of Africa that are not even half as well equipped as the South African mines, And we don't hear about the deaths and the cave-ins of mines, the disasters. The mine disasters are very underreported. Sometimes it's just a flash in the news and then it's gone. And we don't know where miners come from because we don't give a damn, We don't know their conditions, the villages they come from. Nobody ever talks about how they are recruited, And they're unskilled laborers in the world are the least represented because they are the source of the biggest profits.
So efforts are not being made to redress this imbalance?
Well, I mean, the ones who are fighting enough for their money, they got like at Marikana. Those miners got what they asked for eventually, because they said we're not going to work until, So maybe negotiations will improve, or the style of payment will improve, because mining industries make a lot of money. They make a lot of money, and I'm sure they can afford to have less profits and still make a lot of money. But they say when you make a lot of money, you just want to make more and more and more because you're competing with other people who are also making a lot of money, And as long as that mentality exists in the world, profiteers will always exploit people. I mean, we're living in an age today where there's still slavery. You know what I mean? There's still slavery. There's still slavery in Africa and in many parts of the world.
Modern day slavery.
Yeah. So, and then human trafficking is a big thing, you know what I mean? So human beings as a species, it seems like, well, the more we are, the more we multiply, the greedier we become. Because the demands are more, and then people suffer more, so they can be compromised more. Look at the boatloads of people who drown on boats trying to leave their countries to go and look for a better life somewhere, So it's not just miners. It just seems that human beings on the top really don't shit too much about the rest of the people. Only when they are running for office do they come up and they appeal to everybody. And at that time, in every country, everybody becomes stupid.
So come...
And when the election is over, silence.
With the impact grazing had here on the American and indeed the world at large, could you tell us what influence American music has had on your own development as an African musician?
Well, I mean, for me, it's like quite obvious that I started my career in the States, you know, and I came here to music school when I was 20. And I came from a background of South African big bands and township dance bands. But we grew up with American records and South African records, you know. So we are a voracious collector of music. And I think also because South Africa had such an advanced industrial infrastructure, we had the kind of environment to be influenced more by outside things than other parts of Africa. So it's not only, it's just coincidental. I think that if other African countries had that kind of infrastructure and a similar access to like contemporary technology, they would have just been as heavily influenced. You know, you have to realize that we were brought to the city as cheap labor by force, and we were rural people. So our only role model of metropolitan urban life obviously was the African-American model, who were the first Africans to really live in a Western European setting. And with it came like the mirror of their culture, which they came up with was a hybrid, but it had its African roots. And they influenced the world on how to dance, how to sing, how to walk, how to talk, and even sometimes how to cook. You know, and I think that has touched the world by now all over. You know, everybody dresses and looks like an American.
Talk about your experience in Nigeria for us. Since you were there as a guest of Fela Anikulapo Kuti, and we believe this resulted in your production of Lady, your version of his song Lady.
Well, not really. I mean, I did that much later with a group from Botswana, but I myself and Fela had been looking for each other for a long time because people were talking about us from the time we were in school. You know, I met people like Frank Arifa Smart who said, man, you got to meet this guy, Fela. Frank Arifa Smart is a very good friend of mine. And then finally a friend of mine, Quincy Troop, actually met Fela and said, this brother wants to meet you badly, man. When you go to Africa, you must like get in touch with him. And he gave me his address, so I wrote to him. And I said, well, Fela, I've peaked here in the States and we've been looking for each other. He came to the States in '69 and looked for me but couldn't find me because I was on the road that time. So I said, I'm looking to like start an African band, you know, an African band. I'm tired of playing with Americans. I've done that for the last 12 years and like I can't go back home, but I'd like to dig into Africa. So I said, well, just come here anytime you be a guest artist, be my guest, you know, and just like sit in with my band. And when we go on tour of West Africa, there'll be many opening bands, you know, wherever we were, there'll be an opening band. So maybe you might like one of them. So we went, I went to visit him and I stayed with him a month and just sat in with his band every night. I mean, it was one of the most delicious experiences of my life because he had a hell of a band. And then when he started his tour, his tour of West Africa was going to start in Ghana. And when we came to Ghana, there was a group called Hejole Sounds who opened for him. And I said, Fela, I ain't going any further. These are the guys I want to play with. So I stayed there for a month and then called my partner, Stuart Levine, and we went to Lagos. And we recorded, in 1974, we recorded Introducing Hejole Sounds, which opened the world to us and, you know, introduced, I think, besides Osibisa, music from West Africa.
Can a music icon become a country's best hope for change? When the future of democracy in Senegal was at stake, international star Youssou N'Dour stepped into the political fray to come to the rescue. The outcome was he became not president, but Minister of Culture. In Haiti, another musician, Sweet Mickey, became president to save the day. Hugh, can a musician create change in his country?
There have been people who come and go, and the ones who are most change conscious and most change effective, most of the time got killed. You know, so I think that people go into politics not because they're musicians. You know, I think people go into politics because they're interested in politics, and they're looking for positions. You know. And it depends also on where they are. I think that in the case of Youssou N'Dour, he took an anti-corruption stand. But we've all seen that he was supposed to run for president, and they made him ineligible for president. Overnight, the laws of the country changed. So if they don't like you, you might get the position, but they blow you away. I mean, that's what we've seen in human history. Whether you're a musician or a politician, we're in Kennedy Center right now. But John Kennedy was one of the most effective presidents in this country. He was blown away, and his brother was blown away a few more years later. So it depends on what you're standing for. People who go into politics, I think, like, have to think about those risks. But I don't think that musicians are very special in changing anything. Otherwise, Bob Marley would have changed the world long ago, or Bob Dylan, or Harry Belafonte, or even Miriam Makeba.
Or even Fela, the black president.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Fela fought from his house. You know, he wasn't running for presidents. He was just ridiculing the corruption of his country. But in general, even a person with the best intentions has to face the business establishment. And all over the world, the industrial complex, the business-industrial complex union of the world, want to make sure that nobody makes waves, you know, that will interfere with their profits. And if you come in there with your ideologies and they feel that you're not doing the right thing, they're going to have you blown away. The people with the best intentions always get compromised or get killed. You know, and the politics has become a very dangerous area. It always has been. And I would never even dream of venturing anywhere there, because my views have always been very anti-establishment, and they're not popular, even with militants.
Speaking of one not interfering with their profits, and with the corruption scandals, with the bling culture one hears of in present-day South Africa, tell me, is it a question then of profits before people, or rather than people before profits?
I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I'd probably be on Al Jazeera giving them advice for a lot of money. If I knew, you know. I don't have any answers, my friend.
I don't think we're going to be talking about Hugh for 2014 come the next go-round. Why not?
No, I'm not interested. I mean, you can tell from the way I'm talking that if I went into politics and succeeded, I'd be assassinated in a week. Because I'd come in there and fire everybody.
Perhaps we need a new politics.
You were talking about a new politics. Is there a new politics? Politics is not renewable. It's been the same ever since human beings came on earth. And it'll always remain the same, you know. It's about power, and it's about wealth, and it's about control. You know, I mean, I've met people who go to say, I'm going to school to study politics so I can get into government and steal. It's the young people, because they think it's a norm, you know, that the only way you're going to make it in life is to have like high qualifications, get a high salary, and then steal.
But rather, maybe we should be speaking about a new leadership class.
Yeah, but these are all dreams, you know, these are all pipe dreams. I think that my biggest interest, you know, in Africa, especially in the African world, is heritage restoration into our lives. Because we've all been consumed, especially by Western culture. You know, and there are African homes where they don't, in Africa, where they don't speak the native languages, the mother tongue anymore, because they want their children to excel in their tutorial languages so they can like be competitive in the global world, which is a lot of because Chinese and Indians and Japanese are probably some of the, you know, biggest industrial countries in the world. But the English or the foreign language ends at the gate of their homes. And the culture also ends there, you know. So I think that the saddest things about the African world is that besides conquest, misunderstanding of education, advertisement, media, especially television, which is the new parent. You know, there are no more parents, but children have TVs in their bedrooms. Go to your room and watch TV is the new parenting, you know. And they eat like, they eat in front of the TV, there's no more family meals. Kids don't work anymore, kids don't play in the streets anymore. So there's no children's songs, there's no street songs. You know what I mean? But we come from the richest, probably, and the most diverse cross-section of cultural wealth and content in the whole world. You know, we have thousands of varieties of pageantry, but we don't show any of them because, like, Western culture, and especially religion to a very great extent, and politics, have taught us, or like have convinced us or manipulated us into thinking that our own heritage is barbaric, it's pagan, it's heathen, it's backward, it's uncivilized.
Hugh, talk to us, for some of us who may have not gone to South Africa, paint a picture for us of Sobojama Theatre, of which you're director as well, of the Market Theatre.
Sobojama Theatre, we formed when we first started Songs of Migration 3 years ago. We started it as 100 years of migration music, and then it became Songs of Migration. But it's one of our efforts in heritage restoration, because all the songs that we do happened over the last 120 years maybe in South Africa, which is a very migrationary society, especially at the turn of the 20th century, you know, the 19th century. And then we also had a lot of immigrants who came there because of the, you know, industrial bonanzas there. And many songs became popular, and there are songs that you can start almost anywhere, and people recognize them. That makes them think of their grandmother, their grandfather, their parents, depending on their age. But we have songs of war, songs of love, songs of forcible removal, choral songs, street songs, and we also have songs that come from like the days of the slave plantations and the cotton fields, you know, and the movement of people from Africa here, and like what they, and it portrays sort of like an international African picture of what has happened to Africans and like the excellence of their heritage, you know, and the fact that like when people go to Africa or go to Africans anywhere in the world, they can't find them. If you're looking for Indians, you'll find them, or Chinese, you'll find them. And they have their celebrations, their ceremonies, their seasons, whether it's harvest or what. But we celebrate other things. We don't celebrate African things. We don't have one day through the world that we celebrate together. And yet, like historically, we have hundreds of things. So we're trying to bring heritage back through entertainment, showing people and entertaining them at the same time, showing them their excellence and showing the world the excellence of African peoples. That's what Louis Armstrong helped to do for African Americans. He took what they had in New Orleans to the world, and he brought with it Duke Ellington, Count Basie, you know, I mean, and these are people who came from slavery, but they showed the world that they were not just servants. And today, everybody in the world tries to walk like African Americans, tries to talk like them, tries to dance like them, tries to dress like them, tries to sing like them. It's an endless thing, but African Americans are not even aware of that. So, I mean, like when you look at the Caribbean, you look at South America, you look at what we have in Africa, and you think that, like, when people come to Africa, they want to come and see the animals, and they want to come and see geographical sites. You can see how we're sidestepping the excellence that we possess. And the day that we can put this together in entertainment, like we've done this, but like we want to go into more like rural ethnic spectaculars and integrated things, because if we can get that, that is the thing, I think, that will bind not only us, but that will get us respect when people see who we are, and we will have something to sell. Because right now, we're just a consumer society. We just buy, and we'll always like be kept where we are as long as we buy. You know, we'll always be going to worship at Western monuments.
But there will be a new day in the youth of South Africa for tomorrow.
Only if they find out who they were. Because if they're chasing the Western myth, then it's going to get worse.
Thank you, Hugh Masekela.
You're one of the more intelligent interviewers I've ever met.